We're still figuring out what the Bible really teaches. Today, let's talk about Messianic prophecy. Starting here, long before Jesus was born, the Bible foretold the coming of one whom God would send as the Messiah, or Christ. The prophets of God who lived before Jesus foretold many details about the Messiah. These details would help others to identify him. Consider just two examples. First, over 700 years in advance, the prophet Micah foretold that the promised one would be born in Bethlehem, a small town in the land of Judah. Well, let's read a few verses down from what they cite. It says, "And he will bring peace. Should the Assyrian invade our land?" Wait, hold on. Doesn't every other version of the Bible say when the Assyrian instead of should the Assyrian? See, I was going to point out how verses 5 and 6 clearly point out that this Messiah was supposed to be a war hero, but it seems like they've already moved that goalpost. But these verses talk about the Messiah as if he was going to be born when the Assyrian Empire was still a thing, which Jesus was not. Second, many centuries in advance, the prophecy recorded at Daniel 9:25 pointed to the very year when the Messiah was to appear, 29 CE. While most scholars believe that that prophecy referred to a totally different historical event, let's assume that it's talking about Jesus, and let's assume that the dates add up to him. Verse 26 says that the Messiah would die after 62 weeks, and apparently weeks here means 7 years, which is weird, I know, but let's go with it. That means that the Messiah would have lived 434 years, which nobody seriously believes that Jesus did. It also says that Jerusalem will be destroyed, ending with a flood. And in 70 CE, Jerusalem was sieged and the Second Temple was destroyed, but it did not end in a flood. But let's look at the dates now. We know for a fact that Jerusalem was sieged and the temple destroyed in 70 CE, so we can use that as a point of reference. Before that happened, there were 62 weeks of years, and before that happened, there were 7 weeks of years, which adds up to 483 years, or 413 BCE, which is off from the year 455 BCE, which the appendix dates the beginning to be. But it's worth noting that Daniel 9 places Darius the Mede as the ruler between Belshazzar and Cyrus, even though he didn't actually exist. But the appendix lists more prophecies, so let's go through them. The Messiah was to be born of the tribe of Judah. And the verse that they cite isn't a messianic prophecy at all, but instead it's one of the blessings of Jacob, in which Jacob says that Judah and his descendants will be rulers until somebody comes around to whom the rule actually belongs. Which, if we are to believe the biblical narrative that Judah was the ancestor to the house of David, was King Nebuchadnezzar II, since he sieged Jerusalem, took over Judah, and ended the Davidic line in the 6th century BCE. So this had nothing to do with Jesus. Born of a virgin. It does not say virgin in the original Hebrew. Even your own translation of the Bible, Watchtower, says young woman, which is a more accurate translation. But again, this prophecy had nothing to do with Jesus, because the child who was born was supposed to be a sign to the house of David, which was long gone by the time Jesus was born. And this verse also talks about a time frame in which there was conflict with the Assyrians. Descended from King David. The child that this verse refers to is referred to in the past tense in the Old Testament. And it was supposed to be a ruler. This is not Jesus. And even then, remember there are 2 completely different lineages of Jesus, both of which go through Joseph, who wasn't actually Jesus' ancestor in the first place. Declared by Jehovah to be his son. And they cite a verse in Psalms, which, for those of you who don't know, the book of Psalms is just a collection of songs, and the verse that they cite is a song which is talking about the singer's self. But if we are to take this more literally, then Jesus was supposed to be a war hero, not believed in. This verse is just a rhetorical question. The verses around this one are indeed prophecies, but you chose the verse that is just a rhetorical question. I'll talk about the rest of the prophecies in a later video, because right now I'm running out of time. So, goodbye.